Hello guys, welcome back on Unreal Dystopia, and today we are gonna learn how to replicate an aim offset on a multiplayer game. So guys, if you followed our previous playlist or our previous tutorials about how to make an FPS game, you should remember how we set our aim offset in order to look up and down, okay? In that case, it was with holding a weapon, okay? Now we are gonna try to replicate it on a multiplayer game. So let's see our aim offset setup. So here we are on the onion blueprint, okay, of our character. We are getting from the event blueprint update animation a node from the sequence, and now we are casting to our third person character. We are getting some mathematics here, okay? That mathematics are calculating some angles, okay, from the control rotation of our third person character, okay? And then we are setting a rotation variable, okay? This rotation variable is used on our three transform bone nodes here. Each node is transforming the rotation of the x-axis, okay, of the spine. So actually we have mainly one variable, but we are dividing it by three, okay, because we are curving or transforming the rotation of the three part of our character's spine. Spine 1, you can see here there, spine 2, and spine 3. So now if you are creating a single player game, okay, this part, only this part and this one is enough, okay? You don't need this small addition here. You can see that we have a select float depending on a boolean, and that boolean is depending on its local controller node, okay? So now our mathematics here are handling two different values of rotation. So the first one, which is selected if this onion blueprint, or this, let's say, the owning actor of this onion blueprint is locally controlled, okay? In our case, this is the third person character using this onion blueprint and that onion blueprint to set the onion offset. So if the third person character using this onion blueprint is locally controlled, we are gonna use the get control rotation to handle our control rotation variable used in our or on our transform bones. But if it is not, which mean if we are not on a controlled, which mean if we are not on the client or on the computer using this node, there we are using another variable here. It is always a rotator variable named aim offset roll, and this variable is added here on the third person character blueprint. You can see here that I have added it here. So this variable is set after an event tick, okay? So I will show you firstly if we don't use this variable. So let's say we are on a single player game and we are using only the get control rotation to handle our aim offset control rotation variable. So now if I hit play on a client side, you can see that yes, the client can see its character looking up and down. Even the server can see it, but the second client don't. Okay, so for the server, there is only the server who can see itself looking up and down, and for the second client, as this is the first one, only the client and the server can see the movement. Now let's figure out why. So if you see there, I told you on the onion blueprint that our transform bone nodes are using a control rotation x variable. This control rotation x variable, okay, it's a rotator variable type, is handled by some mathematics that are getting their values from get control rotation, okay? So this is the problem. The get control rotation is a player controller blueprint. Okay, let's say you know that on every game there is a game mode, and every game mode use a pawn, game states, player states, etc. And between that blueprints that are handling the game, we have the player controller. The player controller, guys, is a blueprint that handle the inputs and the identity of the player on the network. Okay, your ID, or your identity on the network is handled by your player controller. So your player controller is not replicated by default on the other clients. So there is only the server and the owning clients, or the player or the computer running the game, in case it is a client, that are seeing the player controller. So I repeat, only the server and the player can see their player controller. So the server can see all the player controllers, okay, of each player, but each player, in case it is a client and not a server, can see only its own player controller. So any values that come from the player controller is not seen by the other players, only from the server. And this is why we can see, the server can see a client looking up and down, okay, but not the other client. So how do we fix that? So now we will keep our configuration in this case. Okay, I need to have my control rotation of the transform bound node replicated. To do so, I need to replace the get control rotation by the variable of the third person character. Okay, and that variable, there it is set by the get control rotation, but after two custom events handling replication. So the first one is the server. So the first one is running on the server, and the second one is running the multicast. So the server is calling the multicast. The multicast is setting the variable aim offset rotation. So I will talk about the replication of that variable just in just a moment. So now let's go back to the onion blueprint, and now we are just gonna use the aim offset rotation variable of the third person character. So in that case, I will keep this part empty. So I will by default choose the B option. Let's hit compile, let's click play, and now you should see everybody is seeing the client movement. But here, guys, I am here on the first client. When I move up and down, you can see a glitchy movement of the character. So from here, it not seem like a problem, but if you are developing a first-person shooter game, you will see a very annoying movement. So to fix that, I have added this selector. I am selecting the control rotation values of the owning player, okay, the locally controlled player, in case we are on the computer using or playing that character, but the other players are seeing the other settings, let's say the other variable, which is the third person character that is set by a replication setup. So now you can see here that I am only using the Y value because I am moving the character up and down only. Okay, don't need the X and the Z. You can see that they are directly linked here and there, and they have no effect on the anim offset. So now, if I am on a player that is locally controlled, which means it will pick, the selector will pick the A value, I am using the get control rotation, and that get control rotation don't need to go from the server to the owning player in order to use in order to set the control rotation variable of the anim blueprint. Okay, it is already on the client, okay, computer, so that will avoid to us the glitchy movement. Now you can see that on the client screen, you can see that the movement is smooth. Okay, we have no glitchy movement. But if you see that player on that screen, you can see that the movement still here. Okay, the glitchy movement still here. This is because the value of the controller rotation need to go to the server, and then it is going to the second client to tell that the first client is moving its head or its body up and down. Okay, I hope it is clear. So now I will show you on third person character how did I set or how I replicated the control rotation. So here I have two custom events. On each custom events, I added rotation or rotator variable. Okay, that that being said, I am going to call the server m offset custom events. Okay, here, and on the rotator variable, which is named new parameter, I am going to link the get control rotation node that handle my control rotation value. And here, guys, since I told you that the server can see the values of a player controller, a client player controller, so here I can, for example, directly set the aim offset rotation. Here I need to have this variable replicated, and then from the server directly, okay, and from the new parameter rotator variable, I just set the value of the variable. And now each client can see the first client movement. But here I think, and it is my own opinion, I think that the latency will increase and the ping will be increased. This is why I prefer to avoid replicating the variable and instead use another custom event named multicast, okay, and set to multicast, and then setting the aim offset rotator to this to its value, and of course it will be the value of the custom events multicast setted by the server custom events. So now I have my movement, my aim offset replicated. So let's summarize, guys. We have the same setup of our aim offset on a single player game, okay, using the get controller rotation. I will let the link of the video in description in case you want to see how we created this aim offset setup. But you can see it here. It's not complicated. It just some transform nodes, okay, using this variable and this mathematics here. The mathematics are there because of geometry, guys. Okay, we need to tell the computer if our character is on that angle or not. Okay, that's why this mathematics are there. That's operations are there. And then here we added a selector. That selector is used to avoid the glitchy movement on a first person shooter, especially on the client or on an owning client, okay, screen. If we don't use this, you will have a very glitchy and annoying movement in on the screen of the player. And from that values are gotten from third person character, and that third person character blueprint is setting a variable, a rotator variable that is replicating the get control rotation values to the other clients. And that's it, guys. I hope it is clear. Okay, thank you for watching, guys, and see you the next tutorial.